A Mac.
Marlon Brando stars in the 1954 movie On the Waterfront as a dock worker who turned against corruption. 64 years later, the agency created to clean up organized crime on the real waterfront is fighting to survive. The Port of New York and New Jersey processes nearly 7 million cargo containers a year, delivering more than $200 billion in goods across America. New Jersey recently passed a law to close the Waterfront Commission of New York Harbor, a historic anti-corruption force. Tony Dokoupil visited the port, where regulators say the influence of the mob hasn't changed.
It's already the busiest port on the East Coast, and now the cranes and docks of New York Harbor are poised to get even busier as giant new ships arrive from around the world. But this modern waterfront still hasn't shaken its criminal past, according to the watchdog group responsible for fighting organized crime on the docks.
I like to say, if you watch On the Waterfront, not much has changed except the waterfront's now in color.
Walter Arsenault is executive director of the Waterfront Commission of New York Harbor, a special bi-state agency created in 1953 to fight the type of institutional corruption that was prevalent back when his grandfather worked here.
New York is blessed, if that's the right word in quotes, with 5 organized crime families.
All of those families in some way are connected to the port?
Absolutely.
As a choke point in the global economy, the port has historically been exploited by criminals who force payoffs and other kickbacks by controlling who unloads the ships and how quickly. That's still the case, says Arsenault.
The crazy thing about the waterfront is you tell people about it and they look at you and say, no, that can't be true. There's no way that's true.
His organization has identified some 400 longshoremen getting special deals from the shipping companies worth $117 million a year, some for work they rarely do.
There are people who, under the agreement, are getting paid 24 hours a day.
27 hours a day because they miss meals, allegedly. They get an hour meal credit for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So they're actually paid 27 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Longshoreman Paul Moe held one such job, earning $493,000 a year, until he was convicted of fraud and sentenced to federal prison in March.
He collected his weekly salary when he was in Aruba. He collected his weekly salary when he was in Florida. He collected his salary when he was at the movies, when he was with his girlfriend. He collected his salary mostly when he wasn't there.
The commission says these special jobs are almost always filled with favored individuals and connected to union leaders or organized crime. They also increase the cost of everything from coffee to cars.
Who pays those costs?
The consumers. It gets passed on to the consumers.
We talking about tens of millions?
Easily.
You grew up around here?
Yeah.
Former New Jersey State Senator Ray Lesniak led the effort to shut down the commission.
They sound like the good guys.
They do sound like the good guys, but they're not.
Why?
Because they are corrupting the legitimate business practices and trying to interfere with them. That's un-American.
Lesniak's father became a longshoreman before they had the protections of organized labor, which he says the commission now threatens.
They're trying to break the union. The unions have made America strong. My dad didn't get the benefits because he didn't have a strong union. You do not need to break the back of labor unions in order to drive out corruption anywhere.
Lesniak wants to transfer the Waterfront Commission's responsibilities to the New Jersey State Police.
I want the money that's going to the Waterfront Commission, $12 million a year, to go to the New Jersey Attorney General's office, where they have better tools to do what the Waterfront Commission is doing without interfering with the legitimate business practices.
How is it legitimate for somebody to not show up at work and be paid 24 or even 27 hours a day? It's totally wrong, right?
What are you going to do? How are you going to stop that?
That's the Waterfront Commission's mission.
No, it's not. They have no authority over the labor agreement. That's between the terminal operators, the shipping, and so. See, that's the problem.
Lesniak says this is a labor issue, not a criminal issue. How do you respond?
Our enabling statute is to end corrupt hiring practices, and I can't think of a more corrupt hiring practice than discriminatory hiring.
Over the past year, the Waterfront Commission has revoked, denied, or forced the withdrawal of work applications from people associated with all 5 of New York's notorious crime families.
Are you worried taking this on?
No.
Why not?
I've been a prosecutor in my past life. When I was at the Department of Investigation, I did political corruption and organized crime. When I was at the Manhattan DA's office, I specialized in violent drug gangs. It's what I do.
Now, we reached out to the organizations representing the dock workers and the shipping companies. Both declined to comment. So did the largest terminal operators. Now, as for that bill that would do away with the Waterfront Commission, that passed the New Jersey legislature nearly unanimously, but was recently blocked by a federal judge. Norah?
All right, Tony, thank you. Doing some great reporting out there.
Raising a lot of important questions.